I was a kid, the world of adults confused me. They got to do these really cool things, like drive cars and stay up as late as they wanted. But they also had to do this weird thing called work. I used to ask my dad lots of annoying questions. Where do you go all day? Work. Why? To earn money. Why? To put food on the table. Why? I drove him crazy. Dad worked at the local council as an accountant. And as I got a little bit older, I started to take more interest. And he thought it would be a great idea to take me to his office one day so I could see it for myself. This turned out to be one of those unforgettable father-son moments. Unfortunately, not for the reasons my dad expected. Things started to go wrong as soon as we turned up outside the building. I had this one immediate question. Is this it? Now, in my 9-year-old mind, I pictured all offices to look like the movies. You know, Manhattan skyscrapers 100 stories tall. What I was confronted with was the overwhelming grayness of the council's concrete 60s style building. And it got worse when we went inside. Dad's office had 4 plain white walls, one tiny little window in the corner, and the only decoration was a very loud clock on the wall. This didn't look anything like the movies. In fact, this looked exactly as I pictured a prison cell. And sitting there in my solitary confinement, watching the clock on the wall as Dad finished a report, I couldn't take it for long. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. I cracked. "This is so boring," I exclaimed at the top of my voice out of nowhere. "What?" said my dad. "How can you do this all day? This is like torture." Well, 2 things happened after this experience. My dad never took me to his office again. And I never became an accountant. But it did spark a lifelong curiosity for what we do for a living and why we do it. And this eventually turned into a passion and a calling to explore work and how we can make it better for everyone. In my research and my consulting work, I've interviewed hundreds of people about what they do and how they make it work for them. Like Nicola. Nicola's a high achiever. She did well at university. She got snapped up by an international bank on a graduate management program. Her career went up and up and up for 10 years until one day she quit and became a swim coach instead. This is Nicola describing what changed in her life after that decision.
I don't wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat worrying about work anymore. I don't get out of bed with a very heavy, leaden feeling in my stomach and dread the commute into work. I'm much more me again, and I have my spirit back.
Now, those feelings that Nicola is describing are not unique to a high-powered job in a bank. This is commonplace across every type of job at all levels. And the stats on this are absolutely mind-blowing. According to Gallup research from last year, only 15% of people worldwide are engaged with their work. For the majority of us, work is something that we simply endure to pay the bills. And for a significant chunk of us, it's worse. It's a soulless, empty experience that feels utterly pointless. But it doesn't have to be like this. Work can be awesome. It can give so much, and it can enrich our lives. We can achieve things we didn't think were possible. We can learn, we can grow, and we can make a difference along the way. I believe work can be awesome for everyone. The secret is to find meaning in what we do. And what we know is when we have meaningful work, things just work out better for everyone. We're more creative, we're more productive, we have more energy. we feel more like our true selves, and we take this home to our families and our communities. Organizations that have people engaged in meaningful work, well, they report better results across every single metric, including the bottom line. And it's just way more fun to lead a bunch of people who are excited to be there. What we also know is that when we don't have it, we crave meaningful work. In my recent research, 8 out of 10 people said they wanted to feel more meaning in what they did. And a staggering 2/3 said they'd rather have that than a pay rise. Which begs a question. If we all want it, if there's huge benefits for everyone if we get it, why don't we just make it happen? Well, it's complicated. When I started my research degree, my first task was to get my head around the literature. And it was all over the place. It turns out I wasn't the first person to explore this topic. We've been trying to work out what work means to us since the first caveman picked up a tool and said, how come I'm doing all the work around here? Maybe I could charge a call-out fee. Since then, all the great civilizations and philosophers have pondered a question. The very same question that every single person in this room who's ever snoozed their alarm on a Monday morning has asked themselves. Why am I doing this? To help us answer this question and to find the work that means most to us, it would be really helpful if we had some kind of a guide, right? Like some sort of overarching framework, something we could refer to that was easy to understand. I'd love to share it with you. It's called Bubbles of Meaning. There are 7 key elements that lead to us feeling like our work is meaningful. Achievement, authenticity, self-esteem, belonging, purpose, making an impact, and connection. So this is great, right? Now we know what the ingredients are. We can go out there and make it happen. Well, hang on a second. Can you spot the problem with this? How much of each of these bubbles is enough for us to feel our work is meaningful? How much of each of these do we need? To illustrate this, let's use these helium balloons to represent the bubbles. Take purpose, for example. We've all heard it's important to find our why, but how much purpose do you need to make up for a lack of belonging? Think about this for a second. You've just started a new job. You're excited about the mission of the company, and you know exactly how your role is going to contribute to it. But you just don't feel like you fit in here. Do they balance out? Or let's imagine you work for a charity. You're saving the baby polar bears from the melting ice caps. What could be better for the planet than that? You're making an impact. Balloon is through the roof. But your workplace is toxic and everyone's mean to each other. Your connection is down at the floor. Where is the line between work being something that makes us feel good and work being something that leaves us empty? Well, here it is. And this isn't just a ribbon. This is our meaning at work line. This is our minimum threshold of what we need from each of these bubbles. Above this line, we feel good about what we do. Below this line, we start to feel like something is missing. Now, I know you guys are all high achievers in this audience, and I can read your minds. You're thinking, I'm going to get all my bubbles near the ceiling. Yeah, I knew it. Well, I don't think it's necessary. The more that I explore the meaning of work, the more I realize that a meaningful life is more important. But it's hard for us to fully enjoy our lives if the thing that we spend the majority of our time doing is something that we hate. That's why the most important thing is that we keep all of these bubbles above this minimum line. When just one starts to slip below, this is the nagging voice in the back of our head. This is the snoozing the alarm on a Monday morning. This is the heavy leaden feeling, dreading the commute to work. This is emptiness. And this is where Nicola's bubbles were. Notice that her achievement bubble was high. She was a model employee, great at her job, 5 stars in her performance review every year. But over time, authenticity had dropped. Was she really interested in foreign transactions? No. Her life circumstances had also changed, and her purpose dropped. It had been 10 years, and the equation just didn't add up for her anymore. Why am I doing the long hours? Why am I taking on all this stress? These 2 bubbles below the line for a period of no more than 6 to 12 months was enough for a crisis of meaning at work. This was enough for Nicola to feel miserable. Where are your bubbles right now? As for Dad, well, it turns out Dad was onto something all along. These 7 bubbles just happened to be the things that my dad's boring job had in abundance. Dad was great at being an accountant. He challenged himself and he grew. His achievement bubble was high. He authentically liked being an accountant. He loved doing accountant stuff. He loved making those numbers jump around the ledgers. And he was valued, respected, and recognized for the work that he did. His self-esteem was solid. And Dad didn't care that the building was ugly, because when he went inside, he felt a real sense of belonging. It was a home to him. The work that Dad did directly impacted his community. He was helping to get schools, playgrounds, hospitals financed. He was making a difference. And Dad had always been really clear about what was important to him in life. Golf, family, friends. In that order. Well, at least we made the top 3. But this made his decision to work for the council a really easy one. He had a nice work-life balance. He could spend time with his family and on the golf course. Lastly, Dad was a really nice guy. He could make people feel really good about themselves. And he contributed to a really positive working environment. It might not have been glamorous, but this was enough to sustain my dad for over 40 years. Of course, as in any relationship, there are always ups and downs. These bubbles are constantly dancing up and down as our life circumstances and our work changes all the time. The important thing is to notice when one of the bubbles starts to dip below this line and to do something about it. And if you're a leader, well, you have a special power. You have your hands on the levers that can raise these bubbles up. And you also have the unique capacity to do this. It's hard for us to feel meaning in our work if our boss keeps doing this. So what can we do? Well, this is the time to embrace the 9-year-old child within you. Meaning is a conversation. The best place to start is by asking questions. And I found that these are really helpful. Do I need more of a challenge? Or am I burning out? Maybe I need more support. Am I pursuing and exploring things that are genuinely interesting to me? How does this work make me feel about myself? Is it contributing positively? What could I do to feel more at home here? What am I doing this for? And who benefits from the work that I do? And perhaps most important, what can I do to contribute to this being a great place to work? I think we're lucky. The nature of work is changing so rapidly. This gives us a unique opportunity to shape what it means to us and its role in our lives. And I'm optimistic about this future. The biggest act of leadership that you can take to shape it is to start the conversation now. Start asking questions, explore, and find the work that means most to you.